I can count backwards. It's the internet. As I tell every guest we have, it's the internet. It's not perfect. These are two perfect gentlemen, though, with us, and it's Danny Anthrop and this is our first father-son deal, which I know is just, for the son, is just a thrilling thing. I mean, it's just the greatest thing to be spending more time with your dad. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here and to be here with him and hear him talking about the glory days.
Yeah, he and I'll just do that whole thing. You can just sit off in the corner.
Yeah, I'm fine doing that.
That's all right. But all right, I want to thank our sponsors, Hilton Garden Inn. When tomorrow's a big day, stay at HGI tonight. Triple X on the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. And State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. All right, I'm going to start. We'll start. Obviously, tomorrow is always a special day. If you're a Purdue sports fan, the men's basketball game in Bloomington has always got a special feel to it. I'll start with you, Danny. And even though you're a football guy, but you're a basketball guy too. But in terms of what looking ahead, watching this team play, which can be kind of crazy at times. But what do you see for tomorrow as Purdue makes its way to Bloomington into Assembly Hall?
I'm excited for them.
Yeah.
They're coming off a really good win against Iowa. Assembly Hall is no Mackey, but I think there's something to be said about those guys going down there and enjoying the hostile environment. I know I always enjoyed playing away games. It's just every stadium and every arena is a different feel, and I'm sure that's the same case with them.
John, you, as I recall, your 4 years didn't win down there. Is that right? No. You said you're 77. Were you on the roster when you won? Yes. So you know what it feels like to win down there. It's a great environment, and it's a challenging environment from a player's perspective. It does get tough down there. It's tough to hear. It's tough to think sometimes, but you got to focus.
Right. And that stadium has its own unique feel to it, just the way that it's built. And I agree with Danny. It's no Mackey Arena, and I think Mackey Arena is the best venue in the country.
It's interesting how Mackey Arena, I didn't think even when John and I are close in age, a couple years older, but that venue has been great since the first game, really, since Rick Mountain and UCLA went at it back on the 2nd of December, 1967. But this is the venue. It's interesting. It just gets better. I mean, it does. The environment. I thought the environment against Wisconsin Friday night, but then when you had a completely full house, you had a sellout against Iowa, but the weather kept a few people away. But it's amazing how that place is just seems.
It's a great atmosphere. You got the paint crew, and Purdue does such a great job with the pregame hype.
Yeah,
I think that's second to none. It really gets the crowd into it. And obviously, it gets the team fired up because they scored 104 points, and they're tough to beat at home.
Yeah. Now I want to know if you were playing. I think it's, and Danny can relate to this a lot more than I can. When like No Joe Easton, they come out and they do all their stuff with their hands. I don't know how they remember all this. Is that hard to do? Is this an easy thing? I mean, I don't know. You don't really do that in football like they do in basketball, but being able to do that and be able to all the stuff they do in their warm-ups is part of the show now.
Yeah, everybody's got their own little routine.
Yeah.
And some guys are strict with it, and if it gets thrown off a little bit, they're a little flustered. But
is there do you improvise in that stuff at all?
Oh, absolutely.
So you got to be flexible and be able to think on your feet or think with your hands or something. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I know. Since I played receiver, my routine would always rely on a quarterback.
Yeah.
So. Typically, it was Appleby. He would be the guy that I warmed up with, and we were roommates when we were freshmen, so we kind of had that tradition. And then when he was starting, he had a little bit more to focus on for the game, so sometimes he wouldn't be out there as early or as late. So in basketball, I think they probably have a little bit easier of a time, sticking to what they need to do. But everybody's got that little tradition or ritual they got.
It's ritual, though. I think that's kind of the same thing where you get were you ever superstitious as a player within baseball or basketball about certain things you did every time?
No, not really.
Yeah.
No, I just focus on what you came there to do. You might eat the same thing during the day or something like that, but that would be about it.
All right, now when looking back, and it has been hard to believe 40 years, and since Purdue's been to the Final Four, John has the last assist of a Purdue basket in an NCAA Final Four. Of course, it's passed to Joe Barry Carroll at the end of the consolation game, back when they played consolation games. So to talk about just the perspective of, it has been a long time, but the program has obviously been at an extremely high level during that 40-year period, but it also shows how tough it is to get to the Final Four.
Well, it really is, and people think that it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of things involved. You got to have a great team. You got to have a great coach. You got to have a lot of luck on your side. How the draw is going to go, where you're going to play. How everybody's feeling through the tournament. Can't have anybody get hurt. All those things have to line up for everything to go just right. It's a difficult task, obviously.
Yeah. What's the best stories your dad tells you about his playing days?
The stories he tells us, it's kind of like how I tell my stories today about my days in Gold and Black.
Yeah.
And it's really nothing like games or anything like that or practice. It's more just the people that he played with and, the stories when they'd go out to eat and they'd prank each other with ice cream and butter and mixing that.
Yeah.
So,
Never gets old.
No.
It's something to be said that, you move on and you live life, and what you remember are the people and not really the sport.
The Anthrop family, of which we have 2 of the 6, right? Or 4. That's
Right.
But the most competitive one, and I say this every time that they're on the show, is Mom, at least in my opinion. All right, I'm gonna let you start with how she helped you, Jana Newell Anthrop, but in her ability to make you competitive. Is that where it came from? He's very competitive as well, but where did that come from, do you think? Or is it your brothers that made you this way?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Growing up with 2 older brothers, it was no easy thing to get a win off them. It took me a while to get a little bit older and a little bit bigger because, I was 4 years younger than one and 3 from another. But he coached me growing up in basketball and baseball, and I will say, like in football, he didn't play football, and nobody really in my family played football. So it was like the one sport where they really couldn't coach me up because in basketball, man.
Did you like that they couldn't tell you what to do, kind of?
A little bit, but he always had good advice. He was basically just like, know your plays and don't fumble. Like that was about it.
Good
but
advice.
My mom is incredibly competitive. Like we'll go to family Christmas.
Yeah.
And, she's going for blood.
Yeah.
So there's no off switch on that one.
In board games or in what?
Anything.
I've heard ping pong is good.
Anything that you can get a W in.
Yeah.
She still plays competitive tennis.
Oh yeah.
And
a fine tennis player.
Yes, she loves it, and she's competitive at everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes I kid her about it. I said you got to curse. But she loves to win. She loves to compete, and she coaches. She still coaches for me down in St. Lawrence. So I'm athletic director down there. There's a little extra duty, and I tell our parents at St. Lawrence that they don't know how lucky they are to have the state coach of the year, varsity high school coach of the year as their elementary coach.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
And she's competitive, and she teaches the girls the right way, and the girls have a good time doing it. So.
And led how many state championships at CC in volleyball?
Well, she was the first coach to get them there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she got them there a couple times.
Yeah.
But
And that's an opportunity that you don't forget. Danny, you've also in your school days have competed at that level, and obviously at the Big Ten level in football. But winning championships and being a part of championship teams, and what it takes to do that, it's always an interesting dynamic of having the right blend. I mean, in your experience and in college, you didn't win as many games maybe as you wanted to, but how is that dynamic different in terms of the experience of winning versus losing? Obviously, we all want to win, but what have you taken from both experiences from that standpoint?
It's kind of what my dad hit on. There's a lot of luck involved,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things falling into place that were years in the making. So the people I played with at Central Catholic when we won 45 straight, I grew up with those people, and a lot of them, their parents went there with my dad, and that was very common. And it's kind of interesting to see, the dynamics of how people grew up and what kind of role they etched. And I was really lucky. I got to play football there when they were at their best, and had a really good quarterbacks, really good offensive linemen, great teammates. And I think the biggest ingredient is the elementary programs and the youth program, because we played together for years and years before we even stepped foot on the high school field.
And it's that expectation to win. That's big too.
Yeah, and and it's always been part of the fabric there of doing it, but also winning. Yes, competing is the important thing too. I think that in that school system and even in this area, there's a lot of programs in this area where that's the expectation is high level, but it's high level to compete. You're going to bring your A game every day. Yeah, and then from that standpoint, when you look and Danny, now your day job at the Lafayette Police Force, tell us a little bit about that. He's also the first guy that's left a shift and come into the show, and we appreciate that as well. But tell us what you're doing and how that what's been your takeaway from that opportunity at the Lafayette Police Force and still being a big part of this community.
I'm really lucky to be in that organization. I work nights. I'm on the red night shift, so we have rotating schedules. So this is my weekend off. I work every other weekend. So this weekend, at least the week was nice. I had a friend from college come back and speak at Purdue, Ryan Russell. So I took Wednesday off. So I only worked one day this week, which is pretty nice. Yeah. I can't complain there. But every day I go to work, I see how lucky I was growing up, and how fortunate I was to have two parents and to be raised the right way. It's an interesting job and it can be a tough one, but I couldn't ask to work in a better place or with better people, and it means a lot to me to work in Lafayette where I grew up and see how the city's changing and evolving and growing. You have to be able to speak to everybody. And I treat everybody, and I know my partners do, they treat everybody like you would somebody's mother or your brother or your sister. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting to see, the police department at work, and I'm really proud of where I'm working at, and I think that they do things the right way.
And John, from a mom and dad perspective, what's it like to have a son in the police force? I mean, because you're in harm's way, you're well trained, that's part of the deal, but how do you guys view that?
In today's age and the way society treats police officers, it's a scary feeling. You say a little prayer every day that watch over Danny and hope he gets through okay, because Lafayette's a changing town, and a lot of it's good, but there's a little bit of negative out there, and there's people out there that can cause harm. So he's well trained, and I take solace in that they've taught him how to take care of himself. But it is a risky occupation. Yeah.
Then when you look at being on the force and being on the street, Danny, in terms of that, what you hear a lot about the opioid crisis. You hear about all other issues that affect young people today. What has surprised you in terms of that? Is it in the time, a little bit of time that you've been on the force? What has been maybe be the biggest surprise, but also some of the biggest challenges from your perspective?
I think one of the biggest challenges for me is when I show up, they don't see Danny Anthrop. They see a police officer. So you kind of have to use your interpersonal skills to level with people. You see a lot of crazy stuff. But I think that Lafayette has a great mayor, a great police chief. We're on the cutting edge of technology, and we work really, really well together. When we see a problem, we attack it head on, and whether that's detectives, patrol, any of the specialty units, it's impressive to see an investigation go down and see it come out successful. I think that there's not one problem that if everybody in the Lafayette Police Department worked together, and we've done it before, that there's nothing that they couldn't accomplish. And it's a great place to work, and I'd love to see more Purdue athletes there. I'm always recruiting for the squad.
Yeah, a lot of kids that take. And did you do criminal justice going in, or what was your undergrad in?
My undergrad was law and society, so
Okay.
it's Purdue's version of criminal justice.
Yeah, and are a lot of kids that are in that going in directly into police work, or do they go? What typically is the path? Or is there any typical path?
A lot of people will go into law school afterwards, but there's a certain section of law and society that you kind of know, okay, like this guy's going into law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I had two really good friends when I was at Purdue in that program, and they're Fort Wayne police officers, and they see a lot of similar stuff and deal with a lot of similar things. So it's nice to talk to them and bounce things off them. But yeah, I really got a great education at Purdue, and I think one of the biggest things that I took from Purdue was just being able to talk to people from all over the world.
Yeah.
We had people from Charlotte, North Carolina, and people from anywhere in Dade County. And if you can communicate with these guys the same way, like every time I'd go into the locker room, you have a bunch of different faiths, a bunch of different races, a bunch of different beliefs. But you just have to treat people the right way, and things usually turn out right for you.
Yeah, for both of you, you start and then experiences in John's days as well. Getting in a locker room with guys that come from completely different backgrounds, and we had certainly in that day, certainly that is a lesson that you learn that not everybody comes from Central Indiana. It's a different experience, and when you look at some of the guys back in our days, the Joe Barry Carrolls, the Keith Edmondsons, and there was nobody quite like Scooby Scarce, as I recall. I don't know if he's ever told you stories, but he's one of the classics. But
we had Drake Morris.
And we had Drake Morris as well. Just that experience and how that shaped you in terms of professionally or in a family life, that you had opportunity to be with guys from different places.
Well, it's a learning experience, and it's something that you can carry on for the rest of your life, because now you deal with people from different backgrounds, different areas, different beliefs. You get a different perspective. It's not not everybody thinks the same way that we do here in Lafayette, and it really changes how you look at things and how you handle things, because you get that perspective, and now you can understand where people are coming from now. So it's a great learning experience.
Yeah. All right. Wanted to ask you about Raheem Mostert. Were you excited? I'm sure you were excited for him. It was unbelievable in terms of that experience. But what was going through your mind as you were watching him, maybe in the NFC? Assuming you got to watch the NFC Championship game, but also just watching him participate, and obviously you guys played together at Purdue.
I was extremely happy for Raheem. That guy, he he was sinfully underutilized during my time at Purdue. And he's always had the ability, and he had to grind his years on teams, and he went through a lot, got released by a bunch of different teams, and that's not an easy thing to do. And I've always kept in pretty good communication with him. And I know last year he had a really bad injury, and that was something to be said to come back from that and have a year like he did. Just really, really happy for him, and couldn't be for a better guy. He's somebody that's got extreme speed, and he's an elite level athlete. We probably should have played him at running back. Yeah. All 4 years at Purdue.
He fumbled, but it's okay. He'd have been okay still.
He's the type of guy that you put him in there and you give him his carries. Yeah. He's going to find a groove like he did in the NFC Championship. I mean, he's an incredible player. I'm super happy for him, and I'm assuming and I'm hoping that this is going to lead him to more contracts, more money, and the job security for him is pretty good right now. And I couldn't be happy for him.
Yeah, I was glad that he actually, not that he, the first couple carries in the Super Bowl, he didn't get a lot of room, but he ended up having a couple decent runs, and obviously the game didn't work out for him exactly how they wanted. But he's an answer to a trivia question with he and Mike Allstott, the only Purdue players I think to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So that is a big deal from that standpoint to be able to have that done. You were a sprinter though in high school and a pretty good one. Did you ever race Akeem, Hunt, and Raheem?
Every day. And
at the end of practice, how did that go down?
So usually it would be like during the off-season workouts.
Okay.
And what's crazy is, like, they'll tell you the same thing. Back in those days, we could race 10, 15 different times, and there'd be a different winner every time. And, I would say Akeem would have us all in, like, the 10-yard, if we just did a 10-yard sprint.
Yeah.
And then the longer the distance got, Raheem was better, because that dude did not, so he kept getting faster. I had a little burst that I could sustain for a while. And Anthony Brown was another guy that was in that group. There was some speed there. Akeem Hunt, Raheem, AB. There was a lot of speed there. It was interesting, and you come from high school where there's some coasting involved in terms of conditioning and practice. Probably.
That was one of the things I tried to coach him on.
Yeah. You
could go a little harder, son.
But when you got to Purdue and you're going against, the Big Ten 60-meter, 100-meter, 200-meter champ, you're going to have to bring it every time. That just makes you better.
Yeah. All right, I got to ask you about brother Jackson and son Jackson, Purdue football, obviously. And Jackson really I thought it was great for him. Had all the opportunities as a freshman, didn't have as much as a sophomore, came back and did everything he could possibly do, and dealt with some difficult injuries as well. From Dad's perspective, what do you see for not only for Jackson but for Purdue football next year? But what's that experience been for watching him as well?
It's been great. I'm a very blessed dad to have 4 sons. 3 of them play Power 5, Big Ten sports. Our oldest son Jade started all off going to St. Joe, playing basketball and baseball up there. It's just been great watching all of them. Like I said, I'm the most blessed man around to have that opportunity. And to watch Jackson out there being the youngest and watch him fulfill his dreams of playing for Purdue and having the success that he's had, it's both Jan and I are very proud of him and hope for one more good, great season out of him, and hopefully the whole team comes back from injuries, and with the new additions, we can make a push for that Big Ten championship next year. I mean, that would be a fantastic way to end it.
Yeah, and Jackson just seems to come in and make plays and doesn't complain. That's kind of the Anthrop way. It couldn't have been easy as it was for you when you had to deal with injuries and all that. But what's your conversations like with him in terms of, do you give him some advice from a receiver standpoint, or do you just love watching play?
When he was younger, I gave him a lot more advice than I do now, because he's been there, he's done that, he's seen it all. Jackson has a great attitude. I'm really proud of him for that. Great work ethic, and he's a tad undersized. But he goes in there and he does his job, and he does it pretty well. And when you look at Jackson, you don't really see, nothing really stands out about him. Why does he make plays? And he's just a good football player. It's kind of tough to categorize it. But things kind of work out for Jackson, like we saw in the IU game, that pass that bounced off somebody. And, that's just kind of his luck. He's got a little bit better luck than me. But he played with a lot of toughness, played through a foot injury, which in hindsight was probably a little bit minor, but he still gets a football guy award for that one, for playing in a few games. But I'm just super proud of him, and I'm happy to see him have his success, and he's a great teammate. Going from being the team's receptions leader to not getting near as much. His work ethic and his attitude didn't change.
Yeah, that's impressive.
He never complained to me, which I thought I would be his person to complain to.
What's this Rondale Moore guy doing here? That's it.
I know Jackson's a great teammate. And he really likes Rondale. And he's happy for everything he does, and he understands that Rondale is an exceptional talent and a rare one. And I think he's kind of, the guy that brings that room together. They're going to be super talented this year. You got a number of guys that
it's crazy,
that could play anywhere else in the country, and I'm excited to see that group go to work with Coach Shepard, and Excited to see his last year.
Yeah, Coach Shepard would be fun to play for, I think. If you had a lot of energy, it would be. All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much for your time today. I always enjoy this, and we could carry on this conversation at a restaurant as well. We just it's good, always great to catch up with the Anthrops, and we appreciate your time today. And we'll see you about tomorrow. It'll be an interesting game. I would imagine. You said you're not working tomorrow.
Not
so you're
working.
able to
I'll be watching.
Yeah, going to be interesting when the Boilermakers take on Indiana tomorrow at 2 o'clock. All right, we're going to take a short break, bring in Brian Newbert, who just came back from availability and heard from what Matt Painter and a couple of the players had to say as the Boilermakers prepare for Indiana tomorrow afternoon. Short break. We'll see you in a couple of minutes on Gold and Black Live.